welcome to The Ancient Way. I'm James.
I'm Marlia.
On today's episode, we are going to talk about what we channel, or maybe our reaction to things.
Yeah.
Or maybe, I try to think of how to word this. Do we adhere to how the world teaches us to react, or do we react in the higher way, which is actually our original way?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like I like kind of describing that our bodies are like, because physically we are receptors.
Yes.
You
Right.
know, like we actually can bring in frequencies, and they've done a whole lot of studies about how our body really receives a lot of sound because we are light.
Yeah.
And light responds to sound. But basically when the world releases something to us, do we adapt to that, or do we adapt to what we're seeing and experiencing from the heavenly realms?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We're these really intricate radios with antennas, and we pick up different frequencies and display or exude different things with that. So the example you shared yesterday, would you be down to share that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I think it's perfect. That's what sparked this.
Yeah. So something that I recognized, that a mentality that I kind of carried, especially like in motherhood, was that the days are really hard with Bexley because, she's almost 2.
Sure.
And I started contemplating. I was like, where did this come in at? Like, why does this feel hard?
Mm-hmm.
And like, how did this thing come onto my plate?
Mm-hmm.
Because for so long, I loved being at home with her. I loved every moment I spent with her. And I was just kind of like thinking through, and I was like, oh my gosh, this came in when I started following other mothers on Instagram. And I think part of it is like a reprieve for them, for their own person. Like they're trying to like process whatever is going on in their own life.
Right.
But it's a lot of like, it's a lot of criticism about being with their kids.
Yeah.
And how hard it is and how exhausting it is. And I know they're trying to like validate other people.
Yeah.
Whatever. But I realized that I had taken that on subconsciously to where my days, I started to dread being with her. And I realized that I was like, that is a falling way of even relating to your kids and even relating to your spouse. And like, if you're in dread mode or like this is hard mode, you're picking up on something, right? Whether that's like something that's whatever, you're an antenna.
Yeah.
And you've probably picked that up to project this expression here.
Yeah.
And like I just realized, I was like, oh my gosh. Well, when I was like, you know what? I'm just actually not going to look at that stuff on Instagram.
Yeah.
I got back to the simplicity of enjoying my daughter.
Yeah.
And enjoying the days together.
Yeah.
And enjoying like her quirky self.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't in the mind of like me.
Right.
And I think that's where the differences are, is when you're motivated by self.
Yeah.
And how does my self feel better here? And like, it's very self-centered.
Right. And it's easy to take that bait. And then when everybody else is doing it, there's like camaraderie around it.
Totally. And so then you feel seen and you feel valid. And
yeah. And it's the way that seems right to the world.
It is the way that seems right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's still trying to validate self.
Right. That's the root of it.
Yeah. Because you don't realize that your self is perfectly beautiful and centered in the Lord. And I think the higher way is actually not self.
Right.
It's where you can value like for me, it's valuing Bexley.
Yeah.
And valuing like her experience and actually being able to observe her. I mean, living her best life. Yeah. Literally. And like, there's joy when you can connect to somebody else thriving in their own moment, you know, like getting outside of your own filter of self-protection or,
Yeah.
Because, you see a lot of people like, oh, you have to help yourself first before you can help other people.
And
it's
like, yourself first. Yeah.
Yeah. And
there's truth. There's an aspect of that. It's not put yourself before others.
Yes.
You do need to realize your importance.
That's where I feel like the difference is.
Right.
Is like actually deal with the roots that are coming up that say I'm not valuable and that I'm not loved.
Yes.
And that I'm rejected.
Right.
Like deal with those things. Look at those, acknowledge that you feel those things, and then actually accept the reality that Jesus actually died for you so that there could be no more separation because he wanted to be inside of you. He wanted to dwell within you. He wanted the temple of the Lord to be you.
Yeah.
I mean, it literally says like we're the tabernacle now. So like those are the things that you should deal with.
Yeah.
But then have your head lifted up and look around. There's so much more outside of just you and your stuff.
Right. And it's more rewarding. It's not for selfish reward, but to be able to be outside of yourself and to care for other people.
Yeah.
It goes both ways, and it's one of the most rewarding experiences.
I've had multiple people, friends of mine, who do not know, like they don't kind of run in the same circles.
Yeah.
But one girl was really dealing with some depression, and the Lord told her, like, go do something for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Like to get outside of your depression, go do something for somebody else. And I had another friend who was dealing with a lot of like self-hatred.
Yeah.
And her counselor told her the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, go do something outside of yourself. And it causes you to let the rivers that are already within you, let them out.
Yeah.
And it can shake you out of a headspace that is worldly.
It can. Yeah.
You know?
Right. Pouring into other people. This happened this morning, and this hit me so hard. I was almost crying like a little baby. But Kyla had a poetry recital this morning.
Aww.
And so Kelsey and I, we both went. She wanted us to both go, and I'm like, of course, anything she has, I want to go see her and be there for her. And she's always like smiles huge when I walk in the room, But we went in there, and she's reading us all of her poems, showing all her pictures and stuff. And there's other parents too, but then there were kids like next to her, and it's kind of scattered throughout the room. They didn't have anybody there. And I was looking at them, and it's tough to talk about it. Golly, dude, pull it together.
It's okay, man.
But they were just looking at all these other parents, and I was looking at their faces, and I leaned over to Kelsey. I was going to be like, hey, let's go. It gets, listen to these other kids, their poetry. Before I could even get that sentence out, Kelsey's like, I'm going to go to this kid, And she did. She walked over to this little boy. And it was just so sweet. But she knelt down and was like, hey, do you want to, you want to read your poetry to me? Show me what you made. And it just lit the kid up. And then, this is what's even more encouraging. Like the principal showed up and other teachers, and they all went and found these kids that didn't have anybody. And they all went and read to them, or went and, got to appreciate what they did despite their parents not being there.
How cool.
But I mean, talk about being outside of yourself and being aware.
Yeah.
And being a mother. Kelsey was like being a mother to these other children too. It's like, it's not just about our little group here. It's like everybody's valuable, and these kids are extremely valuable. And yeah, that was inspiring to me. It gave me confidence about the world. Everybody thinks the world's so horrible and that people are so dirty and rotten.
Totally.
It's not so.
Yeah.
But yeah, the higher way, it just hit me this morning. Incredible. But just being aware. It's like, oh, there's a human, there's somebody with a valuable life right over here at such a a, integral age or a integral,
Yeah. A pure age.
Pure age, but a really important age.
Yep.
And I mean, I remember things when I was a kid that I remember to this day that impacted me. And, yeah, so sweet though.
That is incredible.
Yeah. But
it's like the higher way is saying like, what did I need in that moment?
Yeah.
And then you can go fill that and be that for somebody else.
Right.
If you have a space where you're like, man, I really felt disappointed or I felt let down, like as an adult, you can look back in your life and be like, man, I didn't ever have somebody that stepped up and was there for me in the moments where I wanted to show this thing that I had created, this thing that came out of me, because that's what art is.
Yeah.
It's a thing that comes out of you and you want people to value the things that are coming out of you.
Right.
And as an adult, you can be like, hey, I didn't have that, but I can go be that for that kid.
Right.
I can actually fill in the gap and cause them not to have an experience the way that I did, but actually to move further.
Yeah.
And be like, yo, did you not see the world that these people who I did not know valued me enough to step in on that?
And when you act on that too, when you do make that move to pour into somebody, it can heal and redeem you. If you never had it, it can feel that as well.
Yeah, because when you release something, you give it to somebody else, there's healing that happens.
Yeah. And seeing these kids too, there are 30-year-old kids like that walking around in this world 100%. All around us all the time. And it's as simple as like acknowledging them.
Yeah.
Acknowledge people. And and just being, letting that river of life flow from you. Just being that.
Yeah.
Imparting that to them.
It kind of makes me think of like, so, you and I kind of went on a mission yesterday.
We went on a few missions yesterday.
I mean, we had undercover like big boy, big girl jobs, but we were on a mission to actually release life to these kids. Like, and there were some really dope things that happened. I think that you can approach things from a worldly perspective that's like, hey, I'm here for my job. I'm here to promote my business. I'm here to get kids interested in what I do and make it about you.
Right.
Really.
Right.
But James and I went after it and was like, dude, we're not even here for us.
Right.
Who flipping cares?
Right.
Like, we went after these kids and there were so many sweet moments that we got to really touch the core of kids that, I'll share one example.
Yeah.
But there was a girl that I got a strong word from the Lord for. And I told her, like, hey, just so you know, the things that happened to you and your family, in the family, like, you're not going to carry those. Like, your life is going to be different. And, I said some other things, but whatever. But that thing, you could tell, like, she started crying.
Yeah.
And she came up and she like gave me a hug and she was like, whoa, like, thank you. And she shares with us that she's a foster kid.
Yeah.
And that her mom was hooked on drugs.
Yeah.
And she's actually thought, like, what if I end up like my mom?
Yeah.
And it was like the Lord in the perfect moment, because I was not focused on promoting my own self.
Right.
I was wanting to release life and release the kingdom.
Yeah.
Came and touched one of the deepest questions of her heart.
Right.
I mean, to me, it's so incredibly beautiful. The Lord is wanting to touch people in the deepest parts of them to heal them.
Yeah.
And he does it through us.
He does.
Like, we are.
Well, that's one thing I thought of. Everybody, you want to hear God speak? He speaks through people.
100%.
He speaks through people.
Yeah.
Like his imagers.
Yeah.
But I was like, that's probably one of the main ways,
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, that is just a quick thought there.
But we have so many opportunities to share.
Right.
Like,
well, even being attentive to these kids in their life and what they're shooting for, their creativity, the things that they even their day-to-day lives, being attentive to them and like talking to them and listening to them, what they have to say.
I think that is so incredibly important, is placing value of people with your attention.
Yes.
Because, and we, we say sometimes, in our friend group or whatever, like it's being present. You have to be present in the moment. You have to, but I think it's like giving full attention to them and actually like, hey, I see you.
Yes, I see you. Yeah.
I see you. I value you. What you have to offer is so important.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm gonna get real practical. I think that looks like not being on your phone if you're in the middle of a conversation.
Right.
Like not always just pulling your phone out.
Right.
To like sit there and text real quick. And I know everybody's guilty of it. Yeah. I'm guilty of it.
Yeah, for sure.
But like you show value by like actually making eye contact.
Yeah.
You show value by it just made me think like we had a guy that came to the table and talked to us yesterday. That sweet kid.
Yeah.
But he had a headphone in the whole time.
Oh yeah.
And it was like half of a conversation with us. And he would like kind of nod. And I just thought like, man, how many times do we all do that?
Right.
How often are we just half in on a conversation?
Yeah.
Because whatever we have is more important.
Right.
Than actually somebody that you're with.
Yeah. It's just in not realizing the value of people.
Totally.
It's like people aren't a transaction. They're not a cash register. They're not a,
Yeah. But I really think the only reason that people don't look or connect with another person is because they're still worried about themselves.
Right.
For in their whatever space there is, I think it all comes down to self-centeredness.
Yeah.
And feeling like there's lack.
Right.
Like I think everything goes right back to the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah, it does.
Where you start to question, what did God really say?
Yeah.
Are you really like him?
Yeah.
You question your self-worth.
Right.
And if you have any kind of insecurity, it will be self-protect. It will be withdrawal. It will be isolation.
Yeah.
Like they'll manifest in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah.
But it's all the same.
Right. From the same tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It all comes back to the same thing. But I think the value of people is so incredibly important by just being with them. I just like being there.
Yeah. Right.
I was listening to somebody talk about like what valuing people looks like, and they hit some practical examples, and I was like, that is so incredibly good. But one of the things they said was I just drew a blank. I don't remember specifics.
Yeah.
But basically, if you're only worried about your to-do list and only worried about the things that you need to accomplish, you miss out on so many opportunities to actually sow the kingdom or to reap something.
Yeah.
Like there's something that the Lord was even wanting to bring to you through somebody else, but you're only concerned in yourself.
Yeah.
Just trying to quote unquote survive.
Yeah. Golly.
Yeah. But it's just like,
yeah,
man, I feel like there's so much more going on around us.
Right.
The angels, messengers that are wanting to bring us things like that we could just be open to.
Right.
Like even supernatural experiences we could be having a lot more of.
Yeah.
If our gaze was lifted up.
Yeah. And I even believe like you see all these ancient people, hear all these stories, even in the Bible, but people, it seems as if more supernatural occurrences and things happened back then, but I really think it's because they were open to it. They didn't have all the distractions that we have.
Oh yeah.
I mean, imagine, and we've talked about this before, but it's like going outside and looking at the stars and just being quiet.
Yeah.
Just listening. Something as simple as that. When's the last time anybody's done that, You
know what? That just made me think like how much of our day, our routines even, our habits that we get into, like our morning routine, our nighttime routine, do we just create space in it?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if you're going to bed, you're watching TV up until the time you go to bed, and then you turn the TV off, and then you go get in your bed, and then you go to sleep.
Yeah.
Or you play on your phone in your bed until you go to sleep.
Yeah.
It's like how much space just by observing, okay, what is my day-to-day, what does my daily routine look like?
Yeah.
And do I create pockets of space to just be.
Yeah.
To be with the Lord and not to pray. Not to like force yourself to read your Bible or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, disciplines are good. But I'm saying, how much time do we have where we just create space to just sit?
Yeah.
And know that God is around us and sit in that moment.
Right.
Like sit in the presence and not force something out, but just being like,
just release
Lord,
completely.
Thank you. Thank you that you're here.
Yeah.
And then just be.
Yeah.
Go look at the stars.
Right.
Observe how your body is feeling. Observe the wind in the trees and
yeah. And like, what are the ramifications of doing that in your life?
Yeah.
Like, what is the fruit of that?
Dude, I tell you, for me, it's flipping peace.
Right.
I have so much peace. I have so much joy. I enjoy my encounters with people more.
It seeps into your life.
Yeah.
Every aspect of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have another example. So the mother, the stressed out mom example that you shared yesterday is perfect. Prime example. Here's another one. And I've heard people say this a lot. Don't get your hopes up.
Yeah.
And then I had a conversation with an individual kind of recently, and it was a disagreement. And our currency is hope. That is like a currency that we have. That's the thing, you know? But a comment she made was, well, we can hope all day, but what is that going to do? And I'm like, what? That's my money, you know? That's that's our thing. But even saying don't get your hopes up is saying not to hope.
Yeah.
And I think that's been a governor has been placed on our hope gear, so to speak. But we've been taught not to hope. We've been taught to expect the worst. This wisdom of the world. But that's not the case. Hope paves the way for things to happen. And hope is that canvas. The expanse of it is dependent on your, it's only capped by you, your hope canvas, then the Lord fills it.
So you have to ask yourself, why do you not want to hope?
Right.
If you don't have hope, like why? Why do you not want to?
Yeah.
I think the root of it is because you're afraid you'll be disappointed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're afraid you'll be let down. But I love this. It's in Romans 5:5. It says, now hope does not disappoint.
Yeah.
If any part of you believes the Bible, you should actually believe what the living word is.
Right.
Which is actually the Lord himself. This is him. This is the Lord Jesus. Now hope does not disappoint.
Right.
Because the love of God has been poured out in our hearts by the Holy Spirit who was given to us. It's like, yo, dude, like you actually have the Spirit of the living God in you, so you can hope, and that hope won't disappoint you.
Right.
Just because it doesn't shape out the way you think it should doesn't mean you're going to be disappointed.
Right.
I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. You hope in God.
Yeah.
Your hope is actually rooted and grounded in the love of God, knowing that everything in your life is completely covered, that you are safe, that he will actually work everything out for your good. You will be a conqueror. You'll actually be more than a conqueror.
Your destiny, yeah.
You will be victorious. Like you live in that mind, and that is the heavenly perspective.
Yes.
If you think otherwise, it's rooted in an earthly mindset.
Yeah.
Which is sensual and demonic, according to James.
Yeah. And I mean, how strange is it? Don't get your hopes up. It's like, is the disappointment, it makes it seem like disappointment is something to be feared. Like you don't even want to mess with disappointment, so don't hope.
Yeah.
Because you risk disappointment.
Yeah.
How weird is that?
Yeah.
And contrary.
But what is disappointment really?
I know it. Yeah.
So something didn't shake out the way that you really wanted it to?
Which goes back to that.
But do you trust that God actually has every good thing for your life planned?
Yeah.
And if you believe that, then it doesn't matter. You won't be disappointed. because
ever.
It's actually going to cause the desires of your heart to come alive.
Right.
You know? He's not waiting to smack us down, and he's not a bad dad who's like, man, you better be patient. You know, like, and you'll be punished if you're not.
Yeah. Teach you some humility or something like that.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah.
It's not him at all.
He's not trying to whip you down.
Right.
He's wanting your true person to arise.
Mm-hmm.
He's wanting every costume that you've placed over you to actually fall off.
Right.
So that you can awaken to who you are.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's the key to it too. It's not to look around and say what's the bad, what's the wrong way, what's the world teaching versus what. It's like just pursue him, the tree of life, like that's it, and all these things, you notice them.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that doesn't belong here. And the tree of life, it knocks those things right off.
Yeah, because it's Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus is the tree of life.
Right.
Like, that's him.
Yeah.
There's the tree of life in Revelation 22. It's healing for the nations.
Yeah.
It bears fruit in every single season.
Yeah.
So you're not going to have lack if you're connected to him.
Right.
There is no lack.
Yeah.
And I just love that he says, like, now hope does not disappoint. Because I think that there's a difference between hoping. Oh my gosh. There's a can right here of Clorox disinfecting wipes. I just saw it. It says hope on it.
Does it really?
Yeah, it says hope on the bottom of it. How strange. Look at that.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. How bizarre.
Next to the
recycle
thing.
Triangle.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Dude, recycle your hope, man.
Yeah, that wasn't planned. Yeah. Yeah, recycle it. Use it again and again.
Use it again. But what I was saying about hope is like hoping in circumstances versus hoping in God.
Right.
Like if you're hoping in a circumstance, you're actually hoping in the natural realm.
Yeah.
Like your hope is actually one-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
It's very actually flat.
Right.
But if you hope in God and you hope and I think hope is an eager expectation.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
There is eagerness that is attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think of eagerness, I actually think of joy.
Yeah.
I think of
excitement. Anticipation.
Like, dude, I'm pumped about this.
Right.
This thing is going to work for me. This thing is going to work out. I don't care what the circumstances look like.
Right.
Because I actually have hope that God's going to pull through and it's going to be for my good.
Right. Yeah.
It may look like I am dead broke.
Right.
But it doesn't matter because the Lord's going to bring money out of nowhere.
Right. I mean, how like relieving is that? It's like your hope is strictly and solely on Jesus, not circumstances. So it's like your eye can be single.
Totally.
And everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just do what he's leading you to do. Like, there is no formula that is required.
Yeah.
It is whatever he tells you to do, you follow through on it.
Yeah.
Period. If that looks like, Zach and I were talking about this the other day. I love how the kingdom is so backwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you're wanting a breakthrough in your life, like, I'm just going to use finances as an example because I feel like
it's relatable.
Yeah. A lot of people feel that.
Yeah.
And we've done this whole like name it and claim it and so you can whatever. But I think it looks like in your finances, if you're needing a breakthrough in your finances, you actually ask the Lord like, hey, Lord, I invite you into this space.
Mm-hmm.
That I may have been working this thing out in my own strength.
Yeah.
And not having wisdom of even knowing how to be responsible with this.
Yeah.
But Lord, I ask you to come into this space. And Lord, I ask that you show me the key that will unlock this breakthrough.
Yeah.
And then he may actually have you go give a word to somebody else.
Yeah.
And
he may ask you to give somebody money.
He may actually ask you to give somebody money. He may ask you to XYZ.
Yeah.
But know that the ways of the kingdom may not look like a straight path.
It doesn't make sense to the world.
It doesn't. It's very contrary. And that may not, it just may look in a myriad of ways.
Right. But seek him and try it. It's so worth it.
Yeah, but just follow through. Follow through on anything he says, and the very things that you're needing will be given to you.
Will be met. And that's the beauty of it. Everybody hears like, well, you need to do what the Lord tells you.
Yeah.
As if like, okay, well, there's no telling what he's going to do. But the beauty of it is, and the realization is that everything he has you do, you are going, it's for your fulfillment and your enjoyment. Like it lines up with your heart and your joy. It does. That's who he is.
Yeah.
It's not some crap. I've got to sell, like,
everything.
Yeah. But the beauty of it is it's so much better.
Yeah.
We think.
Okay, I'll even go here. It may be difficult.
Yeah.
It may be difficult because there's a chance that your old identity is rooted in something that he's asking you to do.
Right.
And you're having to let go of an old identity. You're having to let go of an old way of thinking. And sometimes that is difficult.
Yeah.
Because it's been ingrained in you. It's been programmed in you.
Yeah.
You've learned it probably from your parents or from other people around you because that's how kids learn. They're observers.
Right.
Watch any child. They observe and then they'll mimic.
Yeah. And it can feel like separation, but it's not because it's not a part of you.
Yeah, it is separation from your old, like from a thing that was never you.
Right.
Never you to begin with.
Yeah.
And it's learning to actually cling to who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see who you really are, as you behold him, it causes you to come alive.
Right.
It causes you to actually like thoroughly enjoy everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think the pain of something isn't necessarily like it's okay in that too.
Yeah.
Like if it feels hard.
Yeah.
Or you feel, I just think about like, okay, some of the things that I've had to walk out, it was painful. It was painful to actually have to acknowledge, I was so abrasive. And it was painful. The very first time that I like realized how mean I was.
Yeah.
And this was like 10 years ago. I was like, whoa, I'm mean.
Yeah.
And I actually, and granted, this was also like kind of a process, but I had to realize like I even tried to make connection by dogging on people.
Yeah.
And that's a false way of connecting.
Right.
Because I was belittling people.
Yeah.
I didn't know it.
Yeah.
I thought it was like funny and jokes and ha 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 ha. But I had been observing it for so long in my life because that's how people connected in my life.
Yeah.
But to have to acknowledge it was kind of painful because I was hurting people's feelings.
Right.
And people, like, they actually had to come tell me how much I was hurting their feelings.
Mm.
And then it hurt my heart that I even hurt their feelings.
Yeah.
So that part was painful.
Yeah.
I was like, dang, I didn't realize I was doing that. And that sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks that I did that, But, anyways, that's what I was meaning by like painful. It's like sometimes it's like you kind of have to look at some of the muck.
Right.
But there's always good that comes from it.
Yeah.
Like after I was able to acknowledge those things, my heart came alive.
Right.
My heart came alive for people.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I so value people now.
Yeah.
I value people in a way that I never had in the past until I looked at that thing.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
Freaking.
And it's like when you were doing that, you didn't know. Mm-mm. You didn't know anything. I mean, you didn't know any better really until you knew.
Yeah.
And then you changed your mind. You changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was the same way too. There was a period where I thought you had to be tough. I was raised that way. But then when I got older, I was like, no, you need to be stronger. And I would intentionally, there was an opportunity for me to be assertive or even mean to somebody, especially in the workplace. It was like, you take that and assert yourself. And I was like, in my thought, I was like, I'm going to do that and it's going to numb me to the point where I can handle any sort of conflict or situation.
Yeah.
And be strong in it. It was like self-numbing.
Yeah, so I don't have to feel.
So I don't have to feel, and I can just stomp around like a weirdo. And I thought that was the right way to do stuff, like business-wise and everything.
It's probably because you observed it somewhere and didn't even realize it.
I did. I observed it.
Or you did realize it.
Right. And then when I found out, I was like, oh my, I was a little ashamed of it. But I just didn't know. I thought that was the way you were supposed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's another example. Oh, golly, this is opening a whole thing.
Let's do it.
Okay. So you have a boss or you're in the workplace and they teach you not to have relationships or not to even be friendly sometimes with people, depending on where you're at, not to connect with people. It's like we're here strictly to work together. That's it. Don't hang outside. Don't hang out, outside of work. No friends. And even that is wrong.
Yeah.
It's like we're here to make somebody else money. Don't have any sort of connection with it. And even like leadership roles, it's like the leaders are taught, don't, keep your distance.
Oh, yeah.
From them and be one-dimensional with them. And it comes through, and it's always been sad to me.
Do you know what I feel like that creates? It's a hierarchy system.
Yeah. Of separation.
It absolutely creates a hierarchy system that creates separation.
Right.
Like there is an elite group. They are the leaders.
Yeah.
Then you have, your middle class.
Yeah.
Then you have
underlings.
Yeah.
Yeah. The chain of command.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Business is based on military structure. I think it may be changing in today's world. Things are changing.
Yeah.
But it's always been based on that militaristic structure.
Man, but if you believe any sliver of the Bible,
yeah,
the Lord, he did not operate on a hierarchy system.
Right. Not at all.
And I am going to smash on something that is very passionate about me, or about something that I had been learning.
Please do.
This whole, the topic that Peter, James, and John were Jesus's best friends because they got to go into these special places with him. The Lord showed me how much of a lie that is. Because he did not have an elite group of people.
Right.
The Lord was showing me, he shows people what they need to see for the things that they're going to walk into.
Right.
So Peter, James, and John needed to see like the little girl raised from the dead.
Yeah.
Because if you go look in Acts, Peter does the same thing. I guarantee you that James and John did it at a different time.
Yeah. Jesus, he prepared them for it.
He prepared them for it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that Peter, James, and John were Jesus's closest friends.
Right.
It was that the Lord was showing us, just like Elijah and Elisha. Elijah told Elisha, if you see my mantle, then you can have double of it.
Right.
It's the same way. Jesus was saying, if you see these things, you can walk in, you'll walk in more.
Yeah.
Which is the John 14, that these works that I do, you will do greater.
Yeah.
It's the double portion.
It's
the double portion that people get weird about, but it's that as we see him do something and we've seen that, then we can manifest it.
Yeah.
And that's all he was showing us.
Right.
Even on the Mount of Transfiguration. I love that story now. Now that I've seen it in a different light.
Yeah.
It jacks me up, man. So the Mount of Transfiguration, I got to find it. Hold on.
Yeah.
It's in Matthew 17. And this thing jumped out at me so hard. Right. So they had seen all these things happen, right? With Elijah and Moses coming down.
Right.
And they fully didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I love it. Most of the time when they're talking about the disciples, they're like, and they were greatly afraid.
Yeah.
You should go read how many times it says the disciples were greatly afraid.
Yeah.
But I love this because it says, and when they came down from the mountain, Jesus commanded them, saying, tell the vision to no one until the Son of Man is risen from the dead. And I thought that was like, that thing jumped at me.
Oh, yeah.
They saw something on that mountain because they were going to need it in the future, right? Peter was the one that gave the message at Pentecost.
Right.
He preached something at Pentecost about Joel 2 that opened up everything.
Yeah.
I think that's what was going down on the Mount of Transfiguration.
Yeah.
He was actually seeing something.
Yeah.
He was having to chew on that vision, I think, for a bit.
Oh,
but he saw that thing because he then released it.
Yeah.
Because it says, don't say anything until the Son of Man is risen.
Yeah.
Well, why would this elite group of people have to go?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's because it was going to be a setup later. It's not elitism. It's just that he was the the man that was going to be given the message.
Yeah.
That was actually going to bring restoration.
Right.
Right?
Imagine the level of hope and confidence imparted to them when the Lord would show them something like that.
Totally.
In preparation. And imagine when that situation that he prepared them for arises and they're like, oh, that's it. And the confidence of like to act on it.
I think it's just the example. Like it is the picture of like, hey guys, if I'm going to show you something, you're going to have this experience and you're going to know what to do with it.
Right.
So it instills the confidence of like, I've seen it, I can do it.
Yeah.
I've seen it, I can do it. It's like,
that's right.
How incredible is that?
I know it.
Jesus is not elite.
No.
I'm going to say that like 10 times. Jesus is not elite.
He's not. And it's like, if you see it, like it's yours, like ask him. If you want more, ask him. He will be happy. It's your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom.
Yeah.
It's like how much,
Anybody who wants it, they can have it, and they can have as much of it as they want.
Right.
I've been on this kick about like Christian mysticism.
Yeah.
Because I have such deep appreciation for people who have gone before us.
Yeah.
I study old mystics. Yeah. I study, I read about their lives, and there's a few of them that just, man, the love that they carried for the Father and for Jesus, and it just, it draws it out of me. It draws the hunger out of me. And for a long time, I always thought that I just had the desire to be a mystic. I didn't think I was a mystic.
Yeah.
I thought that I was outcasted in that.
I
thought that it wasn't,
not in your cards.
Yeah. I remember early as being a Christian, I would ask the Lord, like beg to be a part of his inner circle.
Yeah.
To be a part of like Peter, James, and John, and be like, Lord, I don't want to be just the other 12.
Right.
But I realized that teaching is deep.
Yeah.
There's this whole thing where you have the inner circle, then you have the outer circle, and then they even use that to justify, well, you always have close friends, and then you have like a wider group of friends, and it's like, it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
We've only programmed ourselves to think that way.
Right.
You can be close friends with anybody you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and
Anyways, but it got me about the whole mysticism thing, because it's kind of like, I don't know, I didn't understand it for a long time.
Yeah.
But it was like the word drew me.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, but the Lord told me this. A mystic is anyone who pursues a supernatural journey of divine experience based on intimate communion with the Lord.
Mm.
And I realized everybody is a mystic. In that moment, I was like, everybody has access to be a mystic, to have a supernatural journey with the Lord.
Right.
Because everything is rooted in communion.
Right.
Everything is about being connected to the tree of life and actually valuing his presence so much. It's not about doing, it's about being with him.
Yeah.
It's about having redefining what quote unquote connection is.
Right.
There's again, a thing that I was taught is that you have your quiet time in the morning.
Yeah.
And then you forget about him the next day or for the rest of the day. Or make sure you pray before meals.
Mm-hmm. That one.
I had a hard time with that. I stopped praying before meals because I'm like, I'm actually going to choose to live in a thankful heart all day long.
Right.
Like that's where it shifted for me is like, I'm not going to pray before my meal.
Right.
I'm actually just going to be thankful every single moment of the day.
Yeah.
And actually like, man, this is good.
Yes, I agree.
Wow, this is good.
Right.
Man, thank you even for the food. Thank you for the flowers. Thank you for the sun. Thank you for the rain. Like,
I'm thinking about that too. What are you praying for protection at each little check mark of your day? Really?
Yeah.
Like if you don't, you're going to get poisoned?
Yeah.
It's a self-protection thing almost.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's kind of exhausting.
Yeah.
I like that. Mysticism being communion with Jesus, but then also like being conformed to his image.
Yeah.
Which is what that communion, it's what it does to you.
You can't help but be conformed.
Right.
When you connect.
And that's it. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. you can't help when you have been in the presence of the Lord and you've just experienced his love for you and the value of even just y'all's relationship and just being for the sake of being.
Yeah.
You can't help but turn around and when you see somebody be like,
yeah,
I love you.
Right.
Like, I've done that where it's brought me to tears just being in the presence of somebody else.
Right.
Because I had just been in his presence.
Right.
And I was feeling that for how he felt about me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was feeling that for somebody else. And it's like, dude, that's transformation.
Yes, it is.
But I think we're learning just collectively how to be in a continual state of awareness of him and his presence with us. And it's not about always checking boxes and I don't think people have always that conception that it's just to check the box. I think it's a habit that we'd been taught to make your own self-righteousness feel good because I connected in the morning. You know, it's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It's like everything that you do that is even inherently good that you try to do to force or even like to make yourself feel good. You know, that's still rooted in the tree that produces death.
Understand there's nothing you do to have his acceptance. That's not even the same game.
No.
As it's a lot more simple and it's better than that.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's that I love that. It's way more simple.
Yeah.
The Christian walk is way more simple.
Yeah. Yeah, it's for everybody. It's for every single person.
And the way that you do it, I love this. Daniel said this on Wednesday, and I was like, Christianity is an art, not a science.
Yeah, right.
It is not a formula. It is not X plus Y equals Z. The way that you experience God is the way that you and him connect.
Yeah.
It's the way that he designed you to want to communicate. It is the very thing that causes you to come alive in connecting with him. Like, there's people that could sit there and draw for hours and actually get lost in the flow. I think that's actually connection.
Yep.
Like, you can connect to God. Zach and I were talking about this too. I think it's inviting God into every single space of your day. And what's like the biggest desire that you have, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, imagine yourself as like a 4-year-old kid. Okay.
Yeah.
And just the joy and delight that 4-year-olds have. Well, they always want to do something with their parent.
Right.
They have the value of like always wanting dad or mom to be around.
Always.
And like, hey, come see this. Hey, come see what I did. Like, what does that look like? What would a relationship look like? It would be laughing. It would be joking. It would be like pleasure. It would be kind of talking about some of the hard things. It would be hearing their perspective on it. It would be just being like running around and playing outside and having them just observe and knowing that you're safe because they're observing. It's like, well, put that in the context of your relationship with the Lord. That's what that is.
Right.
It's like Hugh has just as much pleasure of you sitting outside in the backyard because he's with you, observing you mow the grass.
Right.
And enjoying mowing the grass and being lighthearted and laughing with your family. And like, it's not so compartmentalized as we've made it to be.
Right.
You know? There's just like great pleasure in all that we do.
Yeah. There is. And I like what you said, and invite him to every sphere of your life, every aspect of your life. Invite him in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really the only way to live.
Yeah.
That is what it means to seek first the kingdom.
Right.
And if you're afraid that something isn't going to work out or whatever, it's like invite him in. And then everything that you actually need will be given to you.
Yeah.
And even it's like John 12, like seek first the kingdom and do not fear, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom.
Right.
It's like, good pleasure? What does that mean?
Yeah.
it's good and it's pleasurable.
Yeah. Yeah. Like he's looking forward to it.
Yes.
I mean, how many parents that listen to this, if your kids ask you for advice or ask you to teach them, you know how fulfilling that is.
Yeah.
Like if Kyla comes and asks me, like one time we went and ran together because we were training for a race or something, and I even threw it out. I was like, you want me to teach you how to run, so you can run like long distances? And she's 7. She's like, yeah. And so we jogged together. And I just remember telling her, like, all right, let's start real slow, just where you can breathe and talk, and we'll just go slow and all this. But she was receptive to it and doing it. Mm-hmm. And there's no greater feeling than that kind of thing. And I'm like, can you imagine what God feels?
It's so amplified.
When we ask him for something and actually allow it?
Yeah.
It is beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's just a push for such independence. Like, I got to be independent. Yeah. I got to like do this thing. And it's like.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
Never alone. Never alone.
He doesn't. Listen, if he wanted to leave you alone, he wouldn't have died on the cross.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when he died, he put himself inside of you.
Yeah.
He swallowed up everything and put himself inside of you. So clearly he doesn't want to leave you alone.
Right.
Right.
And it's so sweet how the ball's in our court. He doesn't force us into anything. It's like he's there whenever we want to turn to him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's more than happy. It's his good pleasure to commune with us.
It's so sweet, man.
Well, I had some other things we wanted to go into, but there will be plenty of time to delve into any of these things far deeper. But in going to like, what do we channel? And almost like, what is the world versus heaven?
Mm.
But I was thinking about drugs and dependence on things that are manufactured, for other things. I was thinking about the sun again, about the sun causing cancer.
Yeah.
And then like we're taught, you need sunscreen to protect you from the sun. But I've been on this trail and it just makes you think. I don't know, it just makes you think about it. But it's freed me up mentally to not put my faith in things other than him.
Mm.
To put my full faith in him with anything.
Yeah.
Sickness, all of it. But yeah, I had some other things written down.
I love what you just said, though. And this is how I was interpreting it. It's like you can question anything that you've heard.
Yeah.
And hold it up to the lens of heaven.
Yes.
And especially when it comes to material things, it's like, well, first start using critical thinking.
Yeah.
Why is this thing even being told to you? Which, I don't want that to create skepticism in people, but like, what's the harm of that? Like, what's the value of that? What's the, what is the kingdom mind in this?
Yeah.
And I know there's a place of like, you can over spiritualize the heck out of things.
Yeah, for sure.
But I also think when you over spiritualize things, it creates no movement and it creates no accountability.
Right.
I think if the supernatural thing is actually around you, it will produce accountability, like within your own person, or acknowledgement, I should say, not accountability. But then it also produces follow through.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Spiritual and physical are overlapped. It's not one or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you can look at all the physical things and hold it up to the lens of heaven.
Yeah. It's good to.
Why is that? Why have everybody said that the sun was bad and that you should put on sunscreen?
Yeah.
Well, God made the sun.
I know it. I know it.
Our bodies are light receptors.
Yeah. Why is everybody vitamin D deficient?
When you're outside in the sun,
Uh-huh.
your body naturally absorbs it.
Yeah. I know it. And then even going back to cell phones or being cooped up in the house. It's like maybe that's the reason you get burned, or maybe that's the reason it's uncomfortable.
That's like, we were talking to somebody who was a missionary, and he was saying like, the lifestyle here is totally different.
Yeah.
When he was overseas, their house was probably as big as this room.
Yeah.
However big this room is.
Yeah.
12 by 12.
Don't ask me.
I don't know.
Unless I have a ruler.
So small.
Yeah.
It was so small because he was like, all life is lived outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, well, what does your lifestyle look like? Is it enhancing? Kind of just what we were talking about, like with routine.
Yeah.
Is your lifestyle enhancing your actual physical body?
Right. Right.
Because I think that in and of itself is important for us to cultivate your physical health.
Yeah.
I think that's just as important as your physical or your spiritual health.
Yeah.
And your emotional health.
Right.
You got to get your body moving.
Yeah.
Because it is a receptor. It is an antenna.
Yeah. And it'll all fall into place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's why you eat healthy.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Definitely.
And not become a drunk.
Right.
Not become a pain pill addict.
Yeah. Right.
Because there's a higher way. There's a higher way to receive the things when your vessel is more primed to receive it.
It's higher and it's extremely authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a Band-Aid either, or,
Yeah. I've been doing a whole lot of research on like your mind.
Uh-huh.
And the way that the food that you consume and all these things play a part into your mind's ability to even like receive. And I know some people are like, well, God is greater than your mind and da-da-da. And I was like, yeah, but he also used our imaginations as a screen.
Right.
So how you take care of your mind is vastly important. I think that's the whole like renewing of the mind, like cast down every thought. I think food plays a part of that.
Yeah.
Like, I think you actually have to eat healthy so your brain functions correctly.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
We pray for healing and sickness, and I'm all about that 100%. I think the Lord heals supernaturally.
Uh-huh.
But I also think that sickness is perpetuated by people's choices.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell if you're aware and conscious of your body and stuff, like go ahead and eat like a large pizza by yourself.
Yeah.
And feel that.
You feel heavy.
You feel heavy. It depresses me and it ruins my day when I do that.
Yeah. Me too.
Probably the quantity and the quality. And I love pizza. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I feel a noticeable difference.
Yeah.
And in my ability to receive even. You can feel it.
Yeah. You just feel more clogged.
Sugar. I get hungover if I eat sugar.
Oh, yeah.
Like if I eat like some candy or something.
I can actually feel it tingling in my face and up my neck.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can't eat very much sugar at all.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I think that comes back to awareness of your body.
Yeah.
Awareness and just even awareness in general.
Yeah.
Like, you become much more sensitive to things.
Right.
And then you can tell, like, okay, this thing's adding value to me, or no, this thing is definitely not adding value to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it looks different for every single person.
Mm-hmm.
Like you, a marathon runner, could actually absorb a whole large pizza. But somebody who's sedentary, who doesn't move very much, and then they go eat, it's even that much more heavy on them because their body is not actually processing anything.
It's not using it or anything. It's just sitting there.
Yeah, it just becomes a heavy weight on you.
Right.
And I think that can clog your mind. It clogs your body's ability to receive.
Yeah. Right.
Because I did this whole thing about like, well, we won't get into all that. That gets a little woo-wooey, but.
Okay. You can if you want to.
Okay, I will for 5 seconds.
Do it.
Okay, so your brain releases DMT. Okay?
I was about to go on that trail too.
Okay, good. Your brain releases DMT.
Yeah.
Which some people manufacture that through ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And they do all these drugs to try and release more DMT through their body.
Right.
But DMT is actually how you see into the spirit.
Yeah.
They call it...
Our bodies produce it naturally, correct?
Your body naturally produces it. And, but they have started studying the brain and how much the American diet actually causes calcification on the pineal gland, which releases DMT.
Yeah.
So when it's calcified, it actually hardens.
I've heard that, yeah.
And it does not release DMT.
Right.
It actually shuts your ability to see, into the spirit down. And that's from taking like high levels of fats.
Yeah.
Like polyunsaturated fatty acids.
Yeah.
People load on that thing.
Yeah.
They load in fats. They load on calcium.
Yeah.
And all of those deplete the magnesium in your body, which actually helps produce more DMT.
Yeah.
And the magnesium actually combats the calcium.
Yeah.
Anyways, but it's like it's a mineral that everybody's lacking because they pulled it out of the soil.
Yeah.
But we don't even realize most of these things. We just kind of keep going through our motions.
Right.
Right? I digress. But I think that's why it's so important to know, like, hey, what is my body doing? How is my body responding? And not everybody is going to be like a super huge health nut like I am.
Yeah.
Like, I love the way the body works.
Sure.
I love the way that and I think things
it's fascinating to some people.
Oh, yeah. But you don't have to have all that knowledge to know, like, hey, I feel bad when I eat a large pizza and a pound of ice cream.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know when you feel bad.
You can feel it, yeah.
I just had 4 beers and
yeah,
I feel gross.
Right.
Like, all you have to do is check in with your body.
Yeah.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
But anyways, just the scientific aspect of how I feel like it plays into practical Christianity.
Right.
It's so deeply connected.
Yeah, that's interesting. That'd be fun to go into sometime too. Like even, Hitler pumping fluoride into water, that kind of stuff,
Oh, yeah.
Which is interesting,
So fluoride shuts down the DMT. Fluoride produces calcification in your mind.
Yeah.
Which is in our toothpaste.
Yeah, it's a key ingredient there.
And, okay. The dentists claim that it is the only thing that prevents vitamin or cavities, right? So you have to have fluoride to prevent cavities, but that's not true. It's actually a deficiency in vitamin K.
And that's the one no one ever talks about.
Correct. There's vitamin K2 that you actually need to take.
Oh, wow.
Right,
but in a long time.
But we don't promote the mineral deficiencies of why even cavities happen. Cavities is not because there's too much sugar.
Yeah. Interesting.
Contrary to modern dentistry. And I apologize if you're a dentist, but I have excellent resources that you can read if you want.
Yeah.
But there's a guy that went and studied all over the world. This was back, I believe it was the 20s or the 30s. It was the 20s because it was before World War II happened.
Okay.
So they had to boat everywhere. Him and his wife went all over the world.
Yeah.
Right? So this isn't jump on a plane. And they studied all communities, from like remote people to modern humanity. And anyways, that's what he came out with is the vitamin K2 deficiencies.
Yeah.
That's why the people in the modern world all had cavities, is because they were vitamin K2 deficient.
Yeah.
Along with vitamin A. But that's a side note.
Well, I mean, going back to the food too.
But hold on. So the smaller communities, right? So the poor people, they didn't have cavities. None of them.
Yeah.
None of them had it because they were getting the minerals from the soil. They were getting the vitamin K literally from the leaves that they were eating, from the bark that some of them.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's not about, I think everything goes back to minerals. The minerals that you have in your body.
Yeah.
And how to balance them.
Yeah.
But anyways, what were you saying?
So I guess fluoride is the sunscreen.
For the teeth.
For the teeth. Interesting.
It's true.
That is interesting.
Do you want to go into sunscreen and what your thought was on that?
Well, no, I was running in the sun the other day and thoroughly enjoying it. I love the summer, or, when it's super hot for some reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thought was just hitting me. I was like, what if the sun does not cause cancer? What if sunscreen causes cancer and the sun bakes it into your skin? That was just a thought I had. I hadn't researched it. I haven't even Googled it, but I questioned it and I was like, I kind of called BS on this based on my connection with the
common
Lord
sense.
and my common sense. Yeah, it was just my thought. You're always taught to put this on so you don't get burned.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I always hated the smell of it. I always hated it. Always hated it getting in your eyes and it burns. I hated it. Hated the feeling of it.
Yeah.
I was like, why do we do these things? And then DMT. You mentioned DMT.
Hold on. I want to hit on that.
Okay.
So it actually is proven that sunscreen causes cancer.
Yeah.
They recalled a ton of sunscreen.
Yeah.
Because they said, oh, look, by the way, all of these ingredients actually do cause cancer.
Yeah.
And I know that some parents get concerned because kids get burned.
Yeah.
But there's so many natural remedies that you can actually do to help that.
Right.
But people don't want to go for the natural remedies because we've been programmed to think.
Yeah. Well, you said like back in was it the 20s that like there was the medical field and then there was like herbal and everything, but it was like balanced.
It's homeopathic. Yeah. So you had
homeopathic, right.
Yeah. You had your homeopathic, you had your natural medicine, and then you had your Western medicine that we now know as today.
Yeah.
But some of the bigwigs had figured out how to create pharmaceuticals and they wanted to push more pills.
Yeah.
And they wanted to push product that inherently would damage people.
Right.
But then they poured billions of dollars into the medical system, into the Western medicine. And that's our mainstream doctors.
Right.
And that's why it became so popular, was because they had all the funding.
Yeah.
And it created a division between homeopathic and Western medicine.
Yeah. So what is now the alternative used to be the go-to.
It was the go-to.
Yeah.
Everybody lived that way.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
But I think, okay, I'm going to go on this for half a second. Maybe this is more opinion than anything. But I think that Western medicine had potential to really enhance humanity.
Yeah.
But we have taken it as dependency, and we've become so dependent on even I have to go to the doctor so the doctor can tell me if I'm healthy or not.
Right.
It's like, go look at your own body. Mm-hmm. You can tell if you're healthy or not. You don't need to go to have what just happened is you are giving your power over to them.
Right.
For them to be able to tell you, are you okay or are you not?
Right.
And what you need to do.
Right.
Instead of actually listening to the God within you and actually listen to your own body, we've externalized our power. I think modern medicine, Western medicine, quote unquote, these are major air quotes, had the ability to be a resource for traumatic events.
Yeah. Traumatic
events being car wrecks.
Yeah.
Things that actually needed like immediate surgery.
Right.
Like emergency stuff. That's what that should be for.
Yeah.
Not for everyday daily health.
Yeah.
You don't need pharmaceuticals for these things.
Right.
They just wanted to make a ton of money, which they did, but they already had a ton of money. So that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
But like, it caused us to be disempowered.
Right. Okay. Two things. And this is another thought I had, but this sparked it. One thing is, like, I noticed people put hospital stickers on their car, like they represent their favorite hospital.
It's weird.
It's weird, I think. But going back to that, it's like, listen to the Lord. Don't give your power to somebody else. And this goes back to the hierarchy structure as well.
Yep.
You don't need a priest. You don't need a prophet
to
tell you what God is saying. You don't need any of that. You don't need a middleman at all for any of that stuff.
Yep.
And if that's happening, check that out. Question that. But this is the hierarchy.
A doctor being a middleman, you don't need that.
No, you don't need a middleman. Jesus is the head, and then we're the body, and it's a level. It's level and it's equal, and there's no division in the real thing.
Yep.
And so, but yeah, what you said about that, you don't need to don't give your power to somebody who it doesn't belong to, And I'm not bashing, doctors. I'm kind of bashing priests and prophets, or the self-proclaimed, like, I hear God, you don't. You need to hear what God's saying through me.
Yep.
Not cool.
Well, that I have the authority over your life.
Right.
That's where I have just a blanket.
Right.
I think that we have given authority away.
Yeah.
And saying that somebody else has more authority and more say over my life than I do.
Yeah. Call no man on earth your father.
Man, I am not trying to hate on doctors. I'm just calling it for what it is.
Yeah.
There are misconceptions that we believe. There's things that we believe that we're not powerful because we don't know things.
Yeah.
It's like, well, knowledge isn't power the way that everybody proclaims. That is the world way.
Right.
Knowledge is power.
Right.
It's not. It's listening.
Yeah.
Listening is power. Hear the Lord.
Yeah.
Hear what the Lord is saying about your health situation.
Right.
Ask the Lord, do I go have surgery or do I not?
Right.
If you need surgery on something and, it's not an emergency surgery, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I'm not totally anti all of that stuff.
No, well, I appreciate what you said about like the intention of it originally being like, yeah, this is a good thing, a positive thing for like trauma and things like that. Yes. And
but
the people's hearts in it too.
You shouldn't be using these things, anything, in substitution to connection to the Lord.
Right. It's a cheap imitation.
It is. Even going to the doctor.
Right. Right.
Because most of the time you're fueled by fear.
Right.
If you're going to the doctor, you're fueled by fear.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Or Google.
Dude, if you Google anything, you're dying.
Yeah.
So it's like...
It's all the same symptoms of everything. Yeah.
Yeah. But all I'm saying, I'm not saying don't go. I'm just saying, like, what is the heart motive?
Yeah.
I think that's where the two trees reside.
Right.
Is like, if you're living from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, are you rooted in fear? Are you living from the tree of life?
Yeah.
Which is a sound love and a sound mind.
Yeah.
And then you can make a decision if you should go to the doctor or not.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. Question everything. Think about it, but we don't need dependence. Your dependence is on the Lord. I love that. Don't give your power to somebody else.
Yeah.
Whom it doesn't belong to.
It's literally the Lord.
Yeah, that's it. It's that simple.
I'm going to say this one more time because I don't want to. I'm not saying don't go to the doctor. I am saying weigh it.
Yeah.
Weigh it with the Lord before you do anything.
Yeah.
In that manner.
Right.
If you know that you have a tendency to go to the ER because you have a tickle in your throat, weigh it.
Yeah.
Am I going because I'm afraid? Am I going because of past trauma?
Right.
Am I going and then ask the Lord into that place.
Yeah.
And then once you're at a place of peace, then you can go forward. And if you feel like you need to go to the ER, then go to the ER.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Well, here's something interesting too. The fact that it's a touchy subject. Because obviously this could offend some people. But the fact that it's a touchy subject, you should question it. Like, why is it so touchy?
What's the harm in questioning something?
Right. Right.
I think when we try to have a sense of control on something, we try to control it because it makes us feel better.
Yeah.
That's when we don't want to question anything. But if you just keep everything in an open hand, question everything.
Yeah.
Why not? What do you have to lose except your sense of control?
Yeah, and there's no shame or condemnation in it.
Zero.
You can question anything. You can question everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know how I feel about offense. We could always go into that.
That's true.
If you get offended, you can question that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Well,
I feel like we could tear into many of these subjects. Oh yeah.
Well, you got me talking about that, so.
Yeah. Reeled you in on that one.
I know.
It's okay. It's okay. It's fun to talk about.
I'm so passionate about it, though.
Yeah.
I'm so passionate about how much we give things away to other people.
Yeah. Right.
Because we don't have to.
Surrender to the wrong, thing. But I enjoy talking about it. We can talk about anything and everything on here.
It's true.
And it's good to. It is good to.
At least allow your mind to expand.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, guys. Thanks for enduring this one. This one was fun.
It was. Yeah, thank you all so much for listening. We appreciate you.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.